Do you struggle with the mental game in bowling? If so, you are absolutely not alone. Many people struggle with this, and I am going to share with you a few tips that could help you with this that I got from this awesome book that I recently read that was co-written by PBA champion Josh Blanchard and Dr. Rebecca Colby, who is a sports psychologist. It's fascinating, and I got some tidbits that I'm going to share with you coming up next. So the mental game, if I'm honest, is something that I continue to work on, and that's why I read a lot of books on it. That's why I recommend this book. I'm going to share a little tidbit that I got from this that has been helpful, and I hope it will be for you as well. This book talks about how the bowling game is played on a 5-inch lane, and that consists of the space between our ears. Do you agree with this? There's so much that comes in play in our mind that affects what happens on the lanes. So the book talks about how we can sabotage ourselves. Our emotions are so valuable in bowling, and we want to stay positive. Imagery and what we're visualizing is so important, but things that can sabotage that are disappointment, frustration, and sadness. If they play a part in our game and we start to get really frustrated on the lanes, that can really sabotage what happens coming up in frames to come. So negative emotions can really drain us in the game. And this book talks about imagery and how we can really visualize and staying positive, or at least staying in a neutral place with our emotions. So the book talks about incorporating all of our senses into this imagery, and start basic. Just start by visualizing the shot that you want, visualizing the ball path, things like that, visualizing the strike or visualizing picking up the spare, but then eventually picking up on other senses and bringing those into your imagery. So thinking about how it sounds, the auditory piece, and how it sounds when you strike and how those pins sound, or maybe the other noises that you might hear in the bowling center, thinking about how it feels to strike and to have those, good frames or good games. Maybe thinking about smells around you. It smells in the bowling center. You might smell lane oil or cleaning polish or things like that that people are using on their equipment, or popcorn in the background. Whatever it is, however it smells, kind of bringing that into your imagery. And the book also talks about what it tastes like to win, what it tastes like to have that win. So that's in our mind as well. And then also having that sixth sense when you get up there that you just know what you're going to do, kind of being in the zone, which is a really unique place to be when we have everything running and we're kind of staying on that neutral path with our mind, not letting anything get too high or too low with the emotions. That is where we can really be at an optimal place with our game. So the book has a little test that you can do to see how well you can control your imagery or control your mind for bowling. And what you do is you take a piece of paper and you draw a circle on it, and you either take a key or a paper clip and hang it on a string, or maybe even dental floss. That's what I ended up using, a paper clip with dental floss. And you take it between your thumb and your index finger and maybe stabilize your elbow or your forearm on a desk or the table or wherever you are so it's stable, holding it over that circle. And then the first step is telling yourself whether you want it to move in a clockwise motion or a counterclockwise motion or back and forth. And after you have that going, you can tell it to increase the size of the circle you're going in or whatever, and just let it happen, holding it as still as possible, but you're controlling things with your mind, which I think is pretty fascinating. And then tell it to stop. And what that does is helps you when you're on the approach, when things are happening and your mind is kind of getting too busy, telling it to stop, to center, so you can throw that shot and autograph your shot. And the last step is tell it, don't go in a circle or don't go clockwise, and see what happens. You will probably find that it will start to go in whatever you said it should not go in a circle or back and forth, because what our brains hear is the last thing or the last command that we thought or thought that we thought. And if you said, don't go in a circle, it's kind of like saying, don't miss the 10 pin, don't miss the pocket. When we hear don't, but then miss the pocket or miss the 10 pin, that's what our brain is going to key in on. Our brains don't necessarily know the difference, surprisingly, between what is real and what is imagined. The book has a lot of imagery of the brain and what happens. They had an example that showed what a pro bowler's brain mapping looks like when it's thinking about a good shot versus when it's executing a good shot. And it's very similar. So when we're imagining a good shot or picking up the spare or just having a really good game and staying in that zone, we're telling the brain what we want, And when we are thinking negative things or getting frustrated, we're also telling the brain what we want. So we want to make sure that we're really staying in the zone and imagining positive things on the lanes, and that will help your scores and your average to go up as well. So that's what I have for you guys today. I hope it's helpful. It's a little bit of a different kind of video, but it's something to really pay attention to. What are your thoughts telling you, and how can you control that to help increase your scores on the lanes? I would love to hear your experience with this, if you've read the book and what your thoughts are there, and how you control your thoughts and the mental game in bowling. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time.